Hello, and welcome to my kitchen. So, as you know, I have a lot of tomato plants outside. And with that comes, well, what the heck do you do with all those tomatoes? So, I am going to show you how I deal with tomatoes when they come in off the vine. So, back here is a towel full of washed tomatoes, and I just filled up the sink with water a couple inches, 3 inches or so, and then put all the tomatoes in and just kind of wash them like that. I don't like to leave the water running like for this many tomatoes because it just feels wasteful. So there are San Marzano, I think there might be a couple Roma, a couple Viva Italia, some Lemon Boys, which are the yellow ones. These are probably not going to go in the freezer. These are probably going to go in my belly because they are delicious. And then up here, this is the Long Keeper tomato. So I have 4 or 5 of these in here and I actually haven't tried these at all yet. So I think I'm gonna cut one open and just kind of see what it tastes like first. So I have a piece of the Long Keeper here. All I'm gonna do is just put a little bit of salt on it. It's okay. It's not my favorite. They're pretty small. Like, this is the biggest one I picked, and it's not all the way red yet. So this one I'm gonna leave in here. I have baskets up here. I'm just gonna leave this in this basket, and it should be red in a couple days. But like, this is how big they are. They're not huge. Like, here's a couple. Here's another one. See, like, they're not very big. The skin is really tough. Wait, here's another bigger one. And this one was on the vine red for like 3 or 4 days. It still has a little bit of a yellow spot on it, but I just decided to go ahead and pick it because I didn't want it to get eaten by something else. It's not great. They're called Long Keeper because they're supposed to last longer, like on the shelf, like on your counter. And I understand why, because the skin is really thick. I just cored this. So, I mean, I don't know. It's about as meaty as any other tomato is. This reminds me a lot of like a grocery store tomato, like the way it looks and the way it tastes. Obviously it tastes better than a grocery store tomato because I grew it in the backyard, but it's not my favorite. Now I'm gonna cut into one of these Lemon Boys. And so basically, before I do that, I have a bag in my freezer called Misk Tomatoes 2019. This right now just has a couple purple Russians in it. And I'm just gonna throw half of this Long Keeper in here too. Throw it in there. I basically have just been cutting the tomatoes up. Like, here's a bag of San Marzanos, and I think there's a couple Viva Italias in here. So I've just been like cutting them in half, or just cutting the top off. Like, this is a small one. I just cut the top off and just throwing them down in here. And I labeled what it is. And this is a gallon-sized bag, and it's already half full. So my plan with all these tomatoes is to do salsa, marinara sauce, pizza sauce, like that kind of stuff. And that'll be done like later in the season, after all the determinate tomatoes have come in. I'm a canner, so I will be canning marinara sauce and some salsa and probably some pizza sauce. And then I will also make diced tomatoes, but they're not. They're just tomatoes that I pretty much just crush and put in a bag and freeze. I do freeze those because I don't have a ton of room for like canned storage, but I do have a big deep freezer. So basically, for like my canned tomatoes or my diced tomatoes, I'll just thaw these out, or as stuff comes in, I can just thaw these out and use them, and they will turn into basically diced tomatoes, or what would commonly be known as diced tomatoes, like in a can. But like tomatoes like this and like this, what I'll do with these, These are more the Italian style, and these San Marzanos have so much flavor. If you've never grown these before and you are a tomato grower, and if you make sauce specifically, this is one you should have. It's delicious. Tomatoes like this, I will actually take and just take the skins off, like in boiling water real quick, just take the skins off and then shove them in a bag and put them in the freezer. I am going to buy an attachment for my KitchenAid stand mixer this year to, it's called a fruit and vegetable strainer, that will take out the seeds and the skin and just give me the meat and the juice, which is perfect for sauce making. But I will still make some diced tomatoes. I'm actually thinking that these long keepers might make pretty decent diced tomatoes. So we'll see what happens. But I digress, because I've also wanted to do a taste test video. And so while I have some tomatoes in here and I'm doing my freezing, I figured I would go ahead and taste a lemon boy. So this taste test thing is probably just going to be like a series of videos, because not everything is ripe yet. But what is ripe, you know, I'll go ahead and try it. So I'm just gonna cut this lemon boy, and all I did was cut it in half. Like, look at all that meat. These are so meaty. These things are so good. This is my favorite tomato. I've literally eaten one of these every day for like the last, I don't know, like 5 or 6 days. And they don't need very much salt, like at all. Like just the tiniest touch of salt. They are so good. This and the Chianti Rose, favorite tomatoes from this year so far. So with the rest of this tomato, I'm basically just gonna cut it up in like smaller portions and then just throw it in this miscellaneous tomato bag. There's a couple purple Russians in here and then that half of that long keeper. So I'm cutting them a little smaller so that way they will fit in the food grinder. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna basically cut the tops off or core them and then just cut them in half. Like these long keepers, look how big the core is in that. That's pretty big. I'm gonna have to take that whole core out. I usually don't have to worry about that with like the Italian style. It's like the Romas, the Viva Italias, the San Marzanos. Those cores usually aren't very big, but these have really big cores. I am not super impressed with these, but that's okay. That long keeper plant was a plant that my friend Katie gave me, and she actually gave away all of her long keeper tomato plants. So I'm gonna save a couple of these and bring them to her. See, like this one looks more ripe in the middle. It's a little more like dark red, but I don't know. Yeah, so I'm gonna move a couple of these before I forget. Out of the way. And I also struggle with blossom end drops pretty bad on this plant, which is really obnoxious. This I think is a, what is this? This I think is a long keeper. I don't know, we'll find out. Yeah, it's definitely a long keeper. It's really tough. They're really hard to cut, and like I'm struggling to cut this tomato, and this knife is not dull by any means. These tomatoes are just tough. I'm just gonna throw those down in here. Now the rest of these are Italian tomatoes. So I just have my bag. I'll just shove this in the freezer and it'll be good to go. Now, some of these tomatoes that I use for sauce, see, like this is I think this is a Viva Italia, and this one has like this big hole in it. Actually, I don't know if I've had one of these yet. Those are like a typical sauce tomato. This is the San Marzano. This, I think, is a Viva Italia. So as you can see, the San Marzanos are bigger. The only reason I grew Viva Italias to begin with was because I saw the seeds at Menards or at Rural King, and I was like, that looks interesting, let's grow that. Because it said it was a good sauce tomato. And I don't doubt that it is a good sauce tomato. They're just a little small. I mean, there's over 100 out there, so that's okay, but these San Marzanos, that's where it's at. So this one has a little bit of a scar on it. Yeah, see, like I just cut that one open a little bit and you can kind of see like the membrane with the seeds in it. That's cool. Yeah, so this is the inside of a San Marzano. There's actually quite a few seeds and like gel, but they have such a good flavor. So that's kind of what I do with tomatoes after they come in. I'm just gonna zip this bag up, push all the air out, and this bag's almost full of Italian tomatoes. I pick every tomato that's out there, even if it's a little gross, if it has a little bit of like bug damage. If it's salvageable, I pick it and I put it in the freezer. So yeah, I am going to keep doing taste tests, I think, as things come in. Maybe at the end of the season I'll do like a big taste test compilation video of everything and my thoughts on everything, because I do have a spreadsheet of every plant in the garden. If they produced, what I thought about them, will I replant them, and where I got them. So thanks for watching this kitchen video, and I will see you in the next one.